Series are in full effect, especially in San Antonio. A brand new edition of the Association. We are presented by Caesars Sportsbook. The wild part about this is Darren Collison, Mike Am with you, Robin Lopez, who's 7'1". And when I see him every time in person, I'm like, he's tall, but Wemby's taller. It's the wild part about this.
I told you that in confidence, and here you just went right on to it.
And there is a throwback reference that's there as well with the Seattle Supersonics. Regardless, there's a ton to dissect here as we get you set for game number 4, which will tip off on Wednesday. The New York Knicks with an opportunity to go up 3-1 in this series and avenge a loss at Madison Square Garden. Guys, this was the hottest ticket in all of sports. The celebs, they were out in full effect. I mean, you had everyone from the actors, we had the directors, we had the comedians that are out there. I mean, President Trump was also on hand as well. First time, by the way.
He wasn't conscious the entire time, but he was there.
A little bit of a nap at some point. That was well documented on social media, no question.
Mitch Johnson.
He was fired up, as he should be, especially when you get the start like he did from his ball team.
Is that like the superhero step, like the ultimate evolution of the Euro step?
Monty Ginobili's smiling somewhere watching Wemby.
Hey, it's the NBA playoffs. Things getting chippy. It's the finals, right?
Oh, Josh Hart getting a little fired up. Cornette just trying to take it, get the ball.
Famed NBA bad boy Luke Cornette.
Ooh. Technical was called by Cardi B. Halftime performance. Why not? Ball game knocks down the There's nothing like you gotta
use the rim.
I mean, maybe, but does Shaman have the length to do that? Probably a bucket.
Big shots, big buckets for Fox, the veteran.
That's tough. That's against OG too. It's not an easy shot against him.
You're right. Spurs, the faithful. Mirror Wemby crossing that 30-point mark for the first time in these final series. Castle goes for 23, including those big free throws late. We showed you the big triple for him as well. The free throws extended that lead to 4 late in this game. But for the Knicks, Jalen Brunson, OG, they combined for 60 points. Clearly, though, guys, not enough. They need a little bit more gas, and depending on who you ask for, there's a lot of reasons for it. Mike Brown, after the game, was talking about the free throw discrepancy. We'll discuss that in just a moment here. Biggest reason, though, Spurs, give them their flowers. This is not easy. Coach Fizdale is going to be with us a little bit later, take us through what he was seeing from an analytical standpoint. He had said this to me off air. He goes, for a young team to go and get a win like this on the road, there's a lot of mental fortitude. How did they get this done?
I think they realized they lacked that fortitude closing out the last 2 games at home. And they gave the Knicks their credit. The Knicks had been playing like the more veteran team, more composed. They won both those games coming back from losing. I think the best thing the Spurs did, they tried to play a complete game of basketball.
Yeah.
What did you see?
I'm with Rolo. I think they did play a complete basketball game. I mean, it wasn't their defense all along in this series. It was mainly their offense. And I thought the first 5 minutes, Wemby showed that, right? By getting behind the defense, having quick rolls to the basket. And I think his first 2 points were dunks, or at least at the rim. And that gets your offense going. It made it easier for his teammates to have about
Wemby. This is a guy that was averaging about 29 minutes per game during the regular season. I think Mitch Johnson does a remarkable job managing these minutes. At your size, and you can speak to this, when Wemby's out on the floor, and there's not just the amount of extra minutes that he's playing in the postseason, but the physicality of the game, how much wear and tear is that on a 5 when he's out on the floor?
It's a substantial amount. We saw it in the Thunder series. That was their strategy, to slow him down, put Isiah Hardenstein on him, beat the hell out of him. And that's the recipe the Knicks are going to follow to a T. I mean, it's New York City. What are they known for?
Yeah.
And, the refs are going to let him get away with it. You're a little larger. The shorter guys, obviously, not as big. They're going to be able to shove you around. And I think the Spurs have done a great job of adjusting. They've seen that game plan and they've adjusted from it, and that's why they were able to get the Game 3 win.
Yeah, another thing to point out too is that Wemby stayed around the basket majority of the game. It felt like the first 2 games of the series, he was kind of hanging around the perimeter a little bit, and this game was more of him rolling to the basket, getting easy 2s into the paint. And a lot of times when you're getting easy buckets for yourself as a player, then your outside game starts to become a little bit easier to shoot. And he was 4 for 8 from the 3. But that had a lot to do with the fact that he was getting easier buckets in the paint.
Yeah. That was the case with even the 2010's Warriors. Everybody thinks about them as this incredible three-point shooting team, and they do potentially have, the two greatest shooters of all time, in Steph and Klay Thompson. But they were the best in the league at getting those easy twos.
Yeah.
And that's what made them so dangerous, setting up that three-point attack.
Which, by the way, is the antithesis of what we saw in game number 3 from the Knicks. In this postseason with Cat, especially at the top of the key, sort of dictating and managing this team's offense, you saw a bunch of backdoor cuts, especially in that series against Philadelphia. Embiid's got to come out. We definitely didn't see it on Monday night in game number 3. Take me through the offensive mindset right now from a Knicks perspective. It felt like, Darren, sometimes Brunson's sitting there dribbling, they're pressuring him, going full court. It looked like not the Knicks offense that we had seen this playoffs.
Right. I mean, Mike, this has been the Knicks' Achilles heel, even dating back to last year's playoff run, where Brunson had to do so much for this team.
Sure.
And then you ask yourself, for Mike Brown, he has to find another playmaker or ball handler to initiate the offense so Jalen Brunson can get it on the second side of the offense, right? But when Jalen Brunson has to do a lot for this team, it never goes out well. And to your point, Mike, they did have an offense where they were giving it to Karl-Anthony Towns, and they did have a lot of back screens and cuts where Karl-Anthony Towns became that second playmaker. But you got to give the Spurs credit. They're picking up 94 feet, and this seems like when Mikal tries to bring the ball up, they're picking him up full court. OG tries to bring up, they're picking him up full court. They're denying passes at the elbow, right? And they're making it tough for Karl-Anthony Towns to get the ball and where he needs to get it. But I think Mike Brown's going to make the proper adjustments. He probably will have Josh Hart or somebody else bring the ball up where Jalen Brunson doesn't have to work so hard. And I think when they make that adjustment, I think their offense will be a little bit more fluent.
Yeah, something like that needs to happen because this Spurs team had the perfect personnel to negate that offense, especially when Karl-Anthony Towns is at the top of the key, because they have a guy who's 7'5" with an 8-foot wingspan who can play safety back there. Yeah. And suddenly those lanes don't seem as open. Those passes, those cuts aren't as clear.
When you're a guard and like San Antonio's bringing the amount of pressure that they're bringing, you mentioned, hey, maybe Mike Brown allows Josh Hart to be that secondary or maybe primary, depending on the possession ball handler, bringing it up the floor. When that's not the norm for you, and it's not me matching up against you defensively, it's Castle, it's Zell, it's insert Fox and his quickness out there. How concerning is that from a Mike Brown perspective on what that check is if it's not going to be Brunson who's bringing up the ball?
It's extremely concerning because then you're starting your offense under 10 seconds under the shot clock as opposed to starting your offense at 20, right? And then you start to force up bad shots because you're under duress. But when you have another ball handler along with, Jalen Brunson, it definitely makes your offense a lot easier to initiate. And they're just trying to find who that person is. I mean, Castle, look at him. He's hounding him all the way at the half court. You're asking Brunson to initiate the offense. Then he has to try to play make to get others open or get, his guys involved. And then you're asking him to score. That's a lot of work for him. Now, we know Brunson is capable of doing that. He's a great player and great point guard, and he's been doing it thus far, but that's a lot of pressure for one player. I think somebody else has to continue to step up and help him initiate the offense in that regard.
Yeah. Isn't that last year's Knicks offense? The whole point is to not do what we saw a season ago, and that's what got him.
You're right, and that's true. We've all said it by this point. That's what made the Knicks so successful this postseason. Karl-Anthony Towns stepped up, and he did it in a vastly different way than he had previously. He did it defensively. He did it as a distributor, similar to Nikola Jokic. But also OG Anunoby stepped. You had all these other guys stepping up as well.
And this is why I feel like Brunson's run is incredible because of the amount of load that he has to do for this team. And that, you mentioned the wear and tear for Wemby, but look at a guy like Brunson, right?
Sure.
He has to show up night in and night out, and he never complains. He brings it night in, and he brings it on a consistent basis, but you see what he has to deal with. These are young guys that are picking him up full court. That's not an easy task, but he continues to try to deliver.
Yeah. Cat, by the way, no points in the fourth quarter in this series. Heard the stat, didn't really even believe it. It is true because Caesar fact-checked it for us. Explain this. Someone explain how we even get to this point.
Yeah. Go ahead.
Well, no, I think for me, simply it's two things. The Knicks have been looking for clutch buckets.
Yeah.
The most clutch guy in the playoffs thus far has been Jalen Brunson.
Sure.
And I think it's also a factor of the Spurs defense. They have a 7'5" guy down there,
Yeah, I mean, look, he was dealing with foul trouble too again. But I think for Karl Towns in this series, and he's done a good job the first 2 games, this game, he only had 2 offensive rebounds.
Sure.
Right?
Yes.
So when Jalen Brunson is trying to go to work ISO and he doesn't have an opportunity to score, then Karl Towns hasn't get an opportunity to go to the glass and try to get some easy 2s by getting off the glass. But, Karl's being put in a tough spot, right? He's trying to fit in with the offense and allow Jalen Brunson and other guys to attack. And then there's times where you want him to be aggressive. And I think he's trying to find that balance. The first 2 games he did, but I think at some point they got to get him going in the fourth quarter if they want to have some success on offense.
Now, you bring up some of the fourth quarter issues that Cat has so far had. This is what he had to say about being scoreless in the fourth quarter of the NBA Finals.
Through the series so far, you haven't scored a point yet in the fourth quarter and taken just 6 shots. Is there something that's been different about the fourth, whether it's later in the game and there's less energy, or how they're playing you than the rest of the series in which you've been so good so far?
I think it's a combination. We have a game plan. We want to execute it. So just trying to execute our game plan, especially when we get in the fourth, is vital, and just doing what I can to execute it at the highest level.
There's a subtlety there, and if you were watching the clip, I don't know if I picked up on it, and I don't know if it's an actual thing or not. When the reporter asks him the question, a lot of times when it's a stat, players kind of shrug it off, almost say like, oh, really? Like give you one of those types of looks. Cat nodded like, oh yeah, no, I know I haven't scored in the fourth quarter in these games. Is that a thing? Did you pick up on that? Like, am I reading into that a little bit?
No, I actually hadn't picked up on that. Now I'm questioning like your acuity as a mentalist or something. Can you tell
I
me,
wish
like,
I was one of those
what
dudes.
80s Harrison Ford movie I'm thinking of right now?
Indiana Jones, let's go.
Well, it's always Raiders of the Lost Ark, first of all. But no, that he's definitely, it's something he's aware of, he's cognizant of. So that actually gives me hope for the Knicks. If he's aware of this, the team's aware of this is going to be something they're looking to rectify. Because there are times where the Knicks were at their best in games 1 and 2, where Karl Towns, he was aggressive against Wemby on both ends of the floor.
Yes.
He was doing a bang-up job guarding him. He was physical, but he was also attacking the basket, whoever was guarding him.
Look, they need Karl Towns to be aggressive. They won their first 2 games, and a lot of it had to do with Cat being aggressive. So in the fourth quarter, they can't have these situations where Karl Towns doesn't get opportunities to score for his team. They got to figure that part out, because when Karl Towns is aggressive, you can just like Robin Lopez said, like they have this energy about them. They you can look at the bench when he's going to the basket. Look at how the bench just gets up. It becomes contagious, right? And then defensively, he starts to get in a little bit more. He starts to be a little bit more physical with Wemby. But this is all because when Cat's aggressive, a lot of great things happen for the Knicks. So they have to figure that part out.
Yeah, it's interesting. Like he's the best defensive player in the world in Wemby, and yet in this series, we showed a couple of those plays. Cat getting by him. I've seen OG also get by him as well. Is there something like when the Knicks film, they're sitting in film and they're watching this going like, yo, we might be able to take this dude. We have been able to do that.
Well, here's the thing, though. If you look at those clips, a lot of those clips were ISO, going to the basket. Nobody was creating for Cat.
Yeah.
Right? That's Cat taking upon himself and getting Wemby up in the air because he's a threat from the three-point line and going to the basket. Karl Towns can do that a lot more, if you ask me, right? There isn't an offense that can get him going. Like I said, Karl Towns, I believe in Karl Towns because he's that great of a player.
Sure.
And he can change this whole outcome of the game when his mind is in it or when they give him the opportunity to create. So, but when Cat's being aggressive, like you said, that's something that he can do a lot more.
Especially getting to the free throw line. But I do want to get back to what you mentioned about getting by Wemby, because as a big man who was a shot blocker, there are times where I would do that in high school. I had the benefit of, benefit of doubt doing that in high school because I was playing against shorter players, shorter competitors. I think Wemby's kind of thinking the same thing in some of those situations, where if a guy gets by him, he has the grace because of his size, his length, where he's thinking, I can kind of time this up. I can make a play on this where other players can't.
You're saying about coming over the block on the back end.
Yes.
Yeah.
I do see your point, though, with the Knicks' aggressiveness, and they need to keep that. No matter what happens, that needs to be part of their package.
Absolutely.
By the way, the Knicks have to be feeling a certain way coming off of this loss in game number 3. Here's what a couple of guys had to say about some of the offensive struggles so far.
Yeah, you know, obviously I'm a firm believer that you can grow and learn a lot in wins, but you can do the same as in losses too. And we have a veteran group, and nobody is quote unquote panicking or anything like that. Everybody is disappointed that we didn't go out and execute and play to what we feel our standard is. And that's not taking anything away from San Antonio. But we feel like we can play better, a lot better than what we did. And we're looking forward to going out on the floor and showing it.
Not turn the ball over. Continue to be who we are. And our attention to detail needs to be better.
Yeah, we'll have to figure it out. We'll have to figure it out because, like you said, in every game we played here in the finals, we put ourselves in a position where we have to start fighting immediately. And every time, you know, we find a way to get back into the game, but we can't trust that result's going to happen every single time. So, you know, the Spurs have done a great job starting in the game, dictating the pace and dictating how the game's going. You know, we have to try to be the first ones to throw the first punch.
Nah, I mean, every loss kind of hurts the same. You know, that's a good team. We knew they weren't just going to lay down and let us win 4 straight. We knew this was going to be a battle. So they played very well, and we got to give them credit for that. We didn't play, you know, to the best of our capabilities, and I think that's just the frustrating part because we knew we didn't play our best basketball. So you know, we learned from film today. And, you know, we'll be better tomorrow.
Yeah, I think, like I said, I think we're just too much ball watching, you know, standing around. We just got to keep moving. You know, I think they do a great job defensively with the guards and then Wemby staying low. And it could draw confusion sometimes. But I think, you know, if we just keep moving, it's going to, you know, help us and benefit us.
All right, so you hear what some of the Knicks were saying, and generally speaking, saying all the right things. Biggest adjustment in your mind, Aaron, that they need to make on Wednesday night offensively? Because I think what Bridges was saying, I don't even know if we've seen their best game in this series just yet. Like, I don't think they've played great basketball so far, despite being up 2-1.
Well, sometimes a big adjustment may not be a huge adjustment. It's just like minor tweaks, right? And Mikal kind of alluded, they just got to stop ball watching and get that ball hopping around. And you want to create confusion for Wemby where he's not hovering around the paint to try to get block shots. You want to continue to move him around the perimeter and get some easy baskets. And they got to somehow find a way to get back to their offense where they were giving it to Karl-Anthony Towns at the elbow and other guys were kind of moving and cutting and setting bat picks. And once they do that, I think they'll be fine. I mean, this game was going either way for either team, but it's just minor adjustments that they just have to make, and that has a lot to do with the ball movement.
You know, we could talk about minor adjustments. Last night, Isiah Thomas was sitting right where you were, and I had asked him about playoff series being down 2-0, and he was telling me about his Celtics team being down 0-2 in a series, losing 2 games at home, and then rolling off 4 to go and take the series. I said, what was the difference? And he had mentioned, and
That's
Okay.
so he made reference to Coach Stevens changing their starting lineup. And that's maybe the bigger change that we saw. And in this game, we didn't know what the change was going to be. And I don't know enough about...
Did he tell you who that series was against?
Was that against
the
Chicago?
Bulls?
Yeah, I saw that.
Yeah. So it was one of those. But what to me what
Rajon Rondo broke his hand after game 2. So I do want to throw that out there.
I
like it.
To be clear, he made reference to it. IT just say, hey, like that was definitely one of the factors that was out there. Yes, he was abundantly clear about that. Last night, though, to close out the game out on the floor, Fox, Castle, and Harper were there. I don't know how significant it was. I was talking to Caesar about it, our lead researcher here. He looked it up. Over the course of the regular season, those 3 guys out on the floor, a total of 25 minutes.
Wow.
Together.
Wow.
In the game on Monday night, they played 11 minutes, and they closed it out in crunch time. Is that like one of those minor tweaks that you guys like? That small
ball handlers and playmakers to get downhill, and Karl-Anthony Towns has to help off of Wemby. to try to protect the basket. I mean, Wemby's getting easy lobs because he's behind the defense. It makes it very tough on the Knicks defense. And then the other thing that I want to point out is that between those three, they had 17 assists and just 4 turnovers. So when you're playing at a high level and you're taking care of the basketball and you're still getting other people involved, that's very tough to beat.
Yeah. Look, we are going to be dissecting game number 4 from every single angle. We are just scratching the surface on what we saw in game number 3 and what we could see the rest of the series. But right now, this is the San Antonio Spurs team that has now made this a series. They are 1 win away from putting a whole lot of pressure on the Knicks if it's not there already. But we still got more to come here on the association as we get you set for Wednesday's game number 4 of the NBA Finals.
I was hitting that 17-footer in Boston Garden. I just want you to know that.
No,
I was nailing that.